Hi, Jared Hood. Thank you for watching. Um, for a 30-year-old, I'm not the best at technology, so I'm going to probably make this a YouTube page at some point and stop doing the Facebook situation. I probably really just need a producer, but until then, while I'm doing it solo, I'll probably just keep doing the simple stuff. But if you are watching, please like, comment, share. Tell me my beard sucks. Just any interaction would be fantastic. Um, until I can get the YouTube situation going on. Also, I will talk about the Doug Peterson and Eagles situation, but not in this particular video. Um, give it time to breathe, give myself some time on it. Sentimental, I guess. I'm not a sentimental sports guy, but here we are. No, I will talk about it at some point, but I'd rather just give due diligence to what's happening on the field. The Browns and the Bills getting the first win in the playoffs since I was 4. While I'm an Eagles fan, and it's probably bigger overall to me about the Eagles situation, that's not what people want to hear, and I don't think that should be when we're talking sports overall generally. It should be the top topic. I mean, them winning their first playoff game since I was 4 should be the top topic, not the Doug Peterson situation. So, getting into that, we'll just go in order with the 6 games, probably talk about national championship. First of those 6 games over the weekend, first ever Super Wild Card weekend. Colts at Bills. Look, I'm not the biggest Philip Rivers fan. I've said some stuff about him. Didn't think he'd be terrible maybe in a wild card situation. I just don't think he's a Super Bowl winning type quarterback. Well, he played well. Played probably well enough to win, honestly. But Josh Allen, I mean, 200 plus, you know what I mean? No, 324. I'm sorry. I was having a look at my notes. 324 yards. He's played really good all year. And that game, I mean, they took control early and held control for most of it. I think myself would have been right there with Bills fans just screaming until they could hear us in Buffalo about that situation where Pascal caught it, stood up, fumbled, got tackled, and it was almost called a not fumble. That would have just been a terrible way to not win your first game in 6 years, right? In the playoffs. So congratulations to the Bills. Their defense is legit. Josh Allen's legit. If they can run, I think they had a runner over 100 yards. If they can run the ball, or maybe not, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. If they can just play good defense, Josh Allen plays the way he did. I'm not saying they beat the Chiefs, but it will be an exciting matchup if we get there. So good for the Buffalo Bills. It was a really fun game. I think it lived up to it. It was one of the better games of the weekend. I think everyone was hyping it up for a reason because, sometimes it's hard in the wild card weekend in general. Now we have an expanded one to find super neutral matchups. But these were honestly 2 teams. While I'm not the biggest fan of the Colts, didn't think they were going to go the furthest just because of Philip Rivers. I like them as an organization. I love their coach. I think the future of the Colts is really, really good. I'm excited to see what they do with the quarterback situation too. Frank Wright has proven he's a quarterback guy. I mean, I'm probably going to be done myself with the whole quarterback whispering or guru or whatever, but he's a quarterback guy. He works well with quarterbacks. He really does. He's a good offensive guy. So however you want to put that. I'm not saying take a chance on Nick Foles for a year, right? You want to go in a different direction, but Nick Foles won a Super Bowl in his offense. So if you end up not having a stable guy at starter, at least bringing a guy like Nick Foles in to compete would be really the most realistic option. I know there's Carson Wentz things thrown around. Who knows? Maybe they'll draft a guy. Maybe they like a guy who's not going to be one of the top 15 picks. I don't know. We'll see, and I'm intrigued to see what the Colts do. We have time to talk about them in the future, though. Congratulations to the Buffalo Bills. Outstanding game. Very excited for the upcoming week, maybe weeks for them. We'll see. We'll see. A lot of energy going on around that organization right now, and deservedly so. So, moving on. Rams at Seahawks. I picked this one wrong. I did pick the Buffalo Bills in the first game. I was wrong about this one. I picked the Seahawks, and I picked the Seahawks mainly because of Russell Wilson. I just felt like he's the guy. I don't know what happened over the last month and a half with Russell Wilson. I don't know if he's just getting worn out. I mean, for 3.5 years, he's been all they had on offense. He wasn't terrible, but he didn't even throw for 200 yards in this game. He used his legs finally. It's the first time he did that in a while. He had 50 yards rushing. To the extent he did, they had a 20-plus yard run, if I'm not mistaken. It hasn't happened in a little bit for him. It hasn't happened often. I think he did it a couple times this year. But point being is he just hasn't. It wasn't the standard game that you thought. Now, I will say the Rams, best defense in the league. We talked about that. Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, I know Metcalf got his, but Ramsey did his thing. Aaron Donald getting hurt was a big thing, but they showed they had some depth at the defensive line. And really, if they can play the system that they played, I know the Seahawks were ended up scoring couple points there towards the end once Donald went out, but they did enough there for 2 or 3 series to get their offense on the field. Their offense made the gap too far for the Seahawks to ever make it realistically a game after that. So Jared Goff coming in, not supposed to play with the broken thumb. I heard reports back and forth, but the last I heard is he was playing. I didn't realize Wofford was coming in. Serious injury. I hope that he's okay. All reports are everything's all right. He's had to go to the hospital for that neck injury though. So, but if Jared Goff can be what he was on Saturday moving forward for them, I mean they're a legit contender just due to their defense and the weapons around him. I mean you don't have to be. We'll talk about Mac Jones at Alabama. You don't have to be the superstar when you're the guy who can just dump it off to somebody and let them get the yards. I mean Jared Goff's did that, even not in a game where he was supposed to play, but it's playoffs. You know how these football players are; they want to do it. So, I'm not the biggest Pete Carroll fan, but I do love Russell Wilson. So that I'd hate to ever see him not be playing football at some point in the season. But here we are. So, again, I do think the Rams can be legit. It's tough to go on the road 3 times and then get to a Super Bowl, but one game at a time, and they did their job. The divisional aspect of this probably had something to do with it. It was a rubber match. It was entertaining. It was very fun, and Rams put up a lot of points. I knew the Seahawks defense wasn't good, but I thought that they could correct some stuff. I don't know. Adams being hurt is something. I do think they keep saying he's gonna have like 2 major surgeries this offseason. Why was he out there then? I mean, he was there. I know Pete Carroll said it was like 4 or 5 plays where but I think it was a lot more than 4 or 5 plays. He did some stuff, but he was a liability at times. Last game of that night, Taylor Hinkie, right? XFL quarterback. Don't know if I'm saying that right for the Washington football team. Don't know if we'll ever see him again. Played his heart out. I mean, 300+ overall yards. Close with Tom Brady in a playoff game. Probably didn't know he was playing, I think, until Thursday or Friday. What can you say? The defense of the Washington football team, to me, clamped down in the second half. I know that the Bucs were trying to run it out. Fournette ended up with almost 100 yards. Mike Evans had over 100 yards receiving. That first half, Tom Brady was just picking them apart. Offensive line was holding. I felt like they took a step back then in the second half. And so while the football team made it close, the Bucs were also I felt like they always felt like they had it in their back pocket, that if they just wanted to kind of toss the ball around a little bit, they were going to be able to do it. But they didn't really ever get anything going in the second half. Their defense just did what they were supposed to do in the fourth quarter, and you never had to see if the Bucs could get it going, if that makes sense. So we'll see about them moving forward. Like I just said, it's hard to go on the road 3 times, but they have Tom Brady. Tom Brady's first ever playoff win. Congratulations to him. Or wild card playoff win, not first ever playoff. Sorry, first ever wild card playoff win. Going to Sunday, the best game of the weekend. I told you that was the game I was the most excited for. Baltimore at Tennessee. I picked this one wrong. I picked Tennessee. I love Lamar Jackson, if you don't know, so not shocked out here. That was awesome. 200 or 300 almost plus yards, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I think he had 315. If you're telling me he gets 300 plus yards and Henry's being held to 40, then I'm going to take the Ravens all day, every day in that situation. Their defense, so I've talked about how their defense is a bend don't break defense. They don't give up a ton of points. I think they're very good. They match up with you overall, but I thought that Tennessee had more weapons. Tennessee took that 10-0 lead, and it felt, didn't feel good for the Ravens, I bet. So the fact that they were able to come back, tie it up right before half, I thought that was huge, tying it up right before half. And then coming right out of the half the way they did, they got points early. They started controlling the second half where you could tell the Titans weren't getting out of their offense, but their offense wasn't doing anything. So it was almost like, I understand you're still running the ball because you're only down 3 or 7 points or 10 points, whatever it was, with plenty of time left. but the run hasn't worked all game. We're in the fourth quarter. We got to try to do something. It just felt like it wasn't. They never switched it up, just from a system standpoint or a scheme standpoint. And I know you want to be who you are, but I felt like that was a detriment to them. That Lamar run, I mean, he had 4 guys between him and the pylon at the 25-yard line. He just dropped his shoulder on the safety. I forget his name, number 31. Fun to watch. That was amazing play. But overall, I mean, the game was great. Lived up to the bill. And Ravens are moving. They're legit again. Hard to win 3 games on the road, but they, to me, are a legit team. I said that I thought they were playing their best football from that Steelers game where they lost with all the COVID situations, and I mean, that right there proves it that they're scary. They really are. So we'll see about that moving forward. Definitely a fun matchup coming up this week. Moving on, Chicago, New Orleans. I don't really know what else. I mean, when is expected. The Nickelodeon broadcast, though, did have that on for a lot of it. My kid, who was a little too young for it, didn't understand it. I understood some of the references. He couldn't understand anything other than, they're playing football on the team and there's some graphics going where they're shooting green stuff everywhere, which was awesome, but it got his attention. It was cool. I thought it was just a cool idea, a neat idea, and I hope they keep getting innovative, I guess, is the best way to put it, for things like that. Maybe if it's just not Nickelodeon, just more of a kid's aspect. Somebody put it, and I apologize to whoever it was to not credit them. Somebody put it really well. They weren't talking, I think it was maybe even Michael Jr. on some clip, maybe I saw on Twitter. They weren't talking down to you. They were explaining football to kids, if that makes sense. Like, I thought that, it was like if you never watched football before and you watched that broadcast, I did feel like you could walk away from knowing almost as much as you can know from watching one football game that wasn't even really that exciting of a football game. And they did a good job trying to work it up, make parts of it exciting when the slime for the first down, the slime in the end zone, whatever. But it was cool. It was cool. When as expected, excited to see what New Orleans can do moving forward. I'm excited to see how their offense works. Michael Thomas looked really good coming back. Kamara, I thought, was moving the ball. So, Drew Brees did what he was supposed to. That's what he does all the time. It's what he's fantastic at. It's why he's one of the best ever. Surprise of the weekend. Picked this one wrong. I picked it. I was back and forth until I heard about Stefanski being out, the head coach of Cleveland. So I was like, nope, can't pick the team who's first time in the playoffs in a long time, and their head coaches. I just couldn't do it. So shout out to them. Not only did they overcome a legitimately good Steelers defense that's not been good for the last 2 weeks for some reason, the Steelers offense that made a comeback. I mean, they made a charge. They showed that they have weapons and they're able to gash you, and they have, but too little, too late for four interceptions, the snap over the head. I've only seen that happen twice, and I'm going to confidently tell you that the third time I see it, I'm definitely going to say, oh, are we in for one of those games? Because both times that has happened, the Super Bowl with the Broncos and Seahawks and that game the other night, were just blowouts before halftime. I mean, that was one of 28-0 before. I was shocked. I was shocked. I was in shock, and I couldn't imagine being a Steelers fan in that situation. That'd be terrible. All the success you've ever had is still just, that moment is just still gut wrenching. But because of who you're playing it against, honestly, that probably makes it what it is. Baker played really well. I mean, but he didn't, nobody had it. The running backs did their job. Nobody had to exceed anything because everything went their way. And then as of everything going their way, everybody just did their job, not to take the Patriots slang. And then they were up 35-7 at halftime, and that was it. So congratulations to them. We will talk about them and the Chiefs moving forward. Fairly excited for that matchup. I think Kareem Hunt going back is a story, right? We'll get into that. But congratulations to the Browns. Like I said, the Browns and the Bills haven't won since I was 4 in the playoffs. So that's for a history buff sports person, sports history buff person like me, that's pretty good. Quickly, I won't spend too much time on it. OSU, Bama. I mean, what can you say? You can talk about all the skill people, Higby, Waddle. You can talk about Devontae Smith. You can talk about Najee Harris. You can talk about Mac Jones. You can talk about Nick Saban. That's probably what I'll talk about, Nick Saban, because all those guys are good. That's just an incredible offense. Their defense did their job as well. But Nick Saban, we have all kind of just agreed best college coach of all time, probably. And I'm a Notre Dame fan. I love me some Newt Rockne. I'll throw his name in there, but obviously, just what Nick has done in the modern era has revolutionized football, and it kind of made a monopoly where it was him. Now two other teams. I do think teams like Georgia and LSU are approaching the OSUs and the Clemsons. And Ohio State was the second best team this year. Them and Clemson can fight that out, and they did it. So I'll give Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, and everybody else behind them. And that's, I'll take my shots at Clemson during the game, Ohio State during the game. I did, but it's understanding that those are the three and everyone else. But back to Nick Saban. To do what he's doing, he took the moment, and that was first time. I think he's 69 years old. He's almost 70. So to do what they're doing and to take it in, you don't really see him take it in like that. It was pretty cool to see, but you can't say enough. I mean, he's the best. They're the best recruiters out there. They have the best analytic team. They have the best scouting department. They've revolutionized how college football is played and how you prepare your program day in and day out. And that's talking about the Junes and Julys as much as it is the Novembers. So what can you say? I mean, really, I can't say anything nobody else has said about him, but congratulations to them. I'm a fan of him, not necessarily Alabama, but when I see that, it has nothing to do with where it's affecting Notre Dame. It's cool to see. I don't love the era of college football that we lived through. One of my good friends pointed out to me that we live in a golden era of sports, and he was 1,000% right. College football is probably in the worst era of college football just because there is a monopoly on it, but that's also being said out of somebody who the golden era of my team might have been the golden era of college football, right? So that's a different conversation for a different day. Congratulations to Nick Saban in Alabama. Probably going to be a top 5 team starting off next year. Them, Ohio State, Clemson, and I'll throw in Oklahoma, Georgia, or LSU probably, right? So not a great place to be in as a sport, but good for them. Thank you for watching. Any suggestions, anything you want to talk about, let me know. Check it.